like to acknowledge that the episodes in this series are produced on the traditional unceded lands of the Coast Salish peoples, which includes the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. We thank them for allowing us to be their guests.
So,
yeah,
start me out in the, little baby tie.
A little baby tie. We're gonna go little baby tie. Oh dear. What do you want to know? Where I was born?
Tell me the whole thing. New York.
The whole thing.
Yeah. The whole
New
bit.
York.
Yeah.
No. Actually, I mean, I was born in upstate New York in Watertown, but really grew up in Adams Center, which is a tiny town up in northern New York. It was about 200 people then.
Yeah.
But it was the birthplace and the home of Melville Dewey.
Was it? Who was that?
Who was?
Oh yeah.
Well, to take you back, because you'll remember just like I do, Melville Dewey invented a system to
the Dewey Decimal System.
Library books into a
Oh
library.
wow! Well, cheers. I'll raise a glass.
So
to
in my
Melville.
little tiny high school, every year, this is no lie, I'm not trying to be funny, but every year we actually had Melville Dewey Day, where the teacher would take us out and we'd look at the plaque in front of the school to Melville Dewey, and then we'd go in and we'd find some books, and then we'd have free sandwiches and pop, which we loved. So we always liked Melville Dewey Day.
Yeah, we liked Melville.
But his house is still there, actually has a historical thing on it.
Wow.
And I mean, this is, like I say, it's
Adams Center.
Adams Center.
What's the closest town that I might know?
Watertown, where I was born, is
Watertown.
Yeah, that's 10 miles north on the way to the Thousand Islands Bridge into Canada.
Okay.
And it was about 10,000. Now it's bigger because it's kind of the hub town for Camp Drum.
Right.
Which is where all the troops trained to go to Iraq. And it's a huge military installation there.
Right, yeah, okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Adams Center, I think we had 2 stores, 3 pubs, a hardware store, and a librry.
Yeah, you got to have a library.
Well, the library was closed most of the time because somebody had the book. But other than that, other than that, it was a tiny. I actually knew every one of those people in town.
Wow.
I actually knew everyone who lived in the town.
How long did were you there? You were like there
all
through your growing
from when
up?
I was 7 till I was 18.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Right after the war.
Yeah.
As soon as my father got home, we moved.
Yeah.
You know, my mother found a place to buy.
Yeah.
That was that.
Yeah.
So we went down there. Yeah, it was a 14-room house built in 1898.
Wow.
7 gables. Of course, it set them back $4,000.
Right. Oh my. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Never get that back.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Actually, of course, at that time, the average wage for a year's work was about $3,600.
Yeah.
So
I remember when I was a kid working for my dad, and people were saying, "Oh yeah, $40 a week. That's not bad. That's good."
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, my dad was a butcher, so he made $80 a week.
And had his own. It was his own thing, right?
No. He worked
for
he worked for A&P, which was a big supermarket.
So yeah.
And he did come to Adams Center and work for the one store for a little while, but then he had some kind of falling out and went back to Watertown to A&P.
Yeah.
But
so okay, until you're 18. So I
graduated in 1960 from high school, and for some reason, well, money partly, I put in to go to the University of Hawaii.
Look.
Yep. Which I thought
sounds
little
good.
University.
Coming from upstate New York, where it gets a little nippy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tuition was $85 a semester, but it was a land grant college, so you had to take ROTC.
Oh yes.
Yeah, for the Air Force.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I got enough money to pay for that.
Uh-huh.
Got enough money to get there. But I didn't have any idea of what going to a university like that was. It was a big university at that time.
Yes.
And at that time, the Howleys, which
yes.
is what they called us white people,
Yeah.
were 2%.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it was pretty well all Japanese and Chinese
Yeah.
who were sent there by their parents
Yes.
on a full ride,
Yeah.
but they had to keep their marks high.
Right. Yeah.
Did I wipe out badly? I mean, these guys studied.
Yeah.
These guys had a reason to pay attention.
Yeah. Right.
I was doing a 3 to 11 full-time job at a gas station. It took me a half an hour to get to and a half hour to get back,
Yeah.
at which they required me to wear black shoes. So I wore my ROTC shoes
Right.
and got thrown out of ROTC.
Because your shoes were
Well,
unshine.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Anyway, I did not do well in ROTC.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so at the end of the first semester, I dropped out.
And ROTC in Hawaii, which has a pretty big military presence on
yeah.
Oahu,
Oh no.
would be a little bit different than ROTC in, Massachusetts, or somewhere maybe.
I got a feeling it
Yeah.
might have. No, it was
Yeah.
very competitive.
Yeah.
No, everything there was.
Yeah.
I thought $85 a semester in Hawaii. This will be laid back.
Yeah. Wow.
No, the university wasn't. I wound up getting a job there after I dropped out of university
Yeah.
on the Pearl Harbor cruise.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I was a deckhand on that and stayed there a little over a year.
Yeah. Now, when did you start sailing? I know you're into that and
Yeah.
done a lot of that.
No, I didn't.
When did you pick that
I didn't
up?
do that until later,
Until
California.
And
yeah.
so now you're in Hawaii. When did you when did you go to the Marines? When did that happen?
Yeah, well, I came back
Okay.
the following Christmas.
Okay.
I decided I'd had enough of Hawaii. Plus, I might have been a little homesick or something. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah.
But anyway, I came back home and actually flew back to California and then hitchhiked across the states in the winter, which was an interesting
Whoa.
experiment
Whoa.
because I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And got to New York City.
Yeah.
And then my aunt, who was real tight-fisted, loaned me exactly enough money to buy the train ticket to get
To
to
the
Syracuse. And from there I had scraped up enough to take the bus from Syracuse up to Adams Center, which was another hour.
Right. Right.
And then I got a job there at a hotel as a night clerk in Watertown.
Yeah.
And worked there until the spring and then went back to a place I'd worked at during high school called Adventure Town.
Okay.
In Adventure Town, they had built out in Alexandria Bay. It was this western town.
Okay. Yeah.
And they had things went on all day. They had old stagecoaches. They had a really running old train.
Uh-huh.
But on both of these, you'd get attacked and robbed by bad guys on horses
Actors.
and stuff. And so I did some of that, and then they lost their announcer. There was always the voice
Right.
sitting in a
Right.
booth.
Right.
And Danny allowed me to try doing that, and I worked out real well. So
Cool.
I spent the summer.
So that was your first acting experience.
Yep.
Adventure Town.
Yes, it was. I started out my first year when I was 14. I'd gone there right there. They were new. They opened,
Uh-huh.
and they were hiring, and I got a job in the parking lot.
Right.
And Danny, at that point, who was a manager, thought, yeah, this will kill this kid in one day, because it was 10-hour days, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And it was low wage, but you could get tips.
Ah.
And I was good at tips.
Yeah.
When my
Yes, sir.
my parents thought I was lying.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we'd had this little beef with my father. We never got along that
Yeah.
greatly.
Yeah.
And so I left.
Yeah.
And I went and I hitchhiked out to Alexandria Bay because I'd heard this place was opening.
Uh-huh.
And I went in and said I want a job. And this Danny O'Neill, who was the guy who looked at me, and I was small until I got out of high school.
Right.
And he said, "You're 14?" And I went, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, bring your working papers.
That's
You got
your
a job."
qualification.
Yep.
That's
Because he thought I was lying.
right.
Everybody thought I was lying.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went, "Oh my God, get my working papers. So I went back, and I knew how to, I'd looked up how to do that.
Yeah.
So I got out on the road, and I'm hitchhiking, and it's a kind of summer resort town. And this big Cadillac comes by with these two huge African-American guys driving it, smoking cigars, convertible.
Right.
Jump in. So I jumped in. And these guys like, wow. And it was kind of interesting, but they were traveling, and there wasn't much speed control up there. And anyway, they were from New York and had been up there, and they're headed back to New York.
Right.
And they wanted to get there by night, which I don't know if they did or not.
Yeah. Back then, it must have been a long way.
That was a long way. The freeway wasn't in yet. Anyway, we got back, and they dropped me off in Adams Center because it's right on the main route going south.
Yeah.
In record time. And I went running in the house and said to my mother, I want to get working papers, will you sign them? She looked at the clock and went, he hasn't been to Alex Bay and back.
Right.
In this amount of time.
He's lying. Yeah.
So I literally ran down to the school. The principal was there. I said, I need to get these working papers. He said, okay. Filled out his part. Ran back home, said to Mom, okay. Mr. Wilson filled them out. She goes, oh yeah, sure. Good luck. Da-da-da-da.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Kind of, so she signed them.
Yeah.
Jumped on the road. But I got back there about 7:30, and everybody's kind of leaving from setting up. And there was Danny going to his car, and I ran up and said, I got
the papers.
Got the papers. Then he went, okay. He said, you're hired, you're in the parking lot, and he told me how much I was going to make.
Yeah.
And then I went, okay. And he said, so where are you living? And I said, well,
hadn't thought of that.
And he said, how are you going to get back and forth every day? So he took me downtown and dropped me off at this boarding house where some of the other cowboys and I lived. Yeah. An old lady, Millie Richer. Okay. And she ran this place. Anyway, $8 a week. I had a bed and one room in this house. Yeah. And then he also said, and then go to the Shapery and tell them you're working at Adventure Town. So I went to the Shapery, which this is a resort town. Right. And Frankie, who ran that, said, okay, so you buy these meal tickets, and if you always eat here, you'll eat real cheap. Right. So I had a meal ticket, place to live.
You're
I was
14,
really happy with
on
myself.
Your way. Yeah.
And told my uncle up the road, and which I should, well, I did do and should have done. Yeah. But anyway, so when my mother found I wasn't home, and they came looking for me, luckily, she called my uncle, of course, in Clayton, and he said, yeah, he's down in the Bay. I guess I thought you knew. He's got
working papers.
Anyway, they showed up at about in the afternoon in the parking lot there, and there I was waving cars in and putting the signs on them and collecting tips, which were pretty good because these were all Chicago, New York City kind of people. Right. And so they said, well, hey, you can't, what are you, everything, and what are you doing? And anyway, I said, well, I'm here and I'm making money. And my father said, yeah, how much are you making a day waving these cars around anyway? And I said, well, with my tips and all, and I realized I was making about $20 more than he made every day.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh.
So I saw him calculate and go, well, and he was fair, geez, I can't really ask him to give up this job. That's a pretty good job. Maybe I should come out. No. But anyway, then my mother went down and met Millie Richter, who was very religious, went to church every Sunday. Right. Beautiful old lady. Yeah. And so they decided to let me stay. Because Alex Bay was known as a wild town in the spring.
Sure, resort town.
Resort town, right? And anyway. Yeah. So I did that for a year. Yeah. And then the next year, Frankie Cavalario, who owned the Chez Paris, headhunted me. He hired me from Adventure Town and offered me more money to be a short order cook and work with him.
Okay.
So I came back out there, got my setup again,
Yeah.
and I lasted through breakfast.
Oh, like one day.
We wound up in an egg fight, actually. He got so frustrated, he threw an egg and hit me, and I threw one back at him. And when we cleaned up, he felt bad. He took me down to his brother Mike, who ran the boat concession there doing tour boats.
Right.
And Mike hired me to be on the boats as an announcer and a guide, which led to me getting the job later in Hawaii. Because I wound up, that was a good job, and I made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And
you had experience.
And when in Hawaii, they said, well, have you ever done any of this?
Oh, yeah.
And I said, oh yeah, I got 3 years of this back in the Thousand Islands in New York. And they checked it out. And
Cool.
The boat company had really liked me, so.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how long did you do that for then? Like, until you came back? Till you got homesick and came back?
Yeah,
Okay.
until I went to Hawaii and came back.
Yeah.
And when I came back from Hawaii, of course, they had new captains on the boats.
Right.
And you gave a captain the cut of part of the stuff you made from flogging these brochures and everything.
Right.
And I did really well.
Mm-hmm.
And so my captain kept me because he
His cut was bigger.
did better than some other boats.
Yeah.
And when I came back, those guys had tripled their cut.
Wow.
They had new, younger captains, and the people who sold you the books, because you had to buy stock and then bundle them up the way you thought you should and talk people into buying them.
And if you didn't sell them, you were
And
out.
if you didn't sell them, you were out.
Yeah.
But I still have some of the a few that, but
About
I
4,000.
but I realized
realized
that's why I went back to Adventure Town, because I realized this is no longer the lucrative job it was. I'd have to work really hard just to make some money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then, leading to that,
Yeah.
once the Adventure Town shut down in early September, the resort hired me.
Okay.
And I stayed in that resort until they shut down, which is early November.
Okay.
So I was on the desk there. Had a good job doing the night desk at the resort, and they gave me a nice place to live there.
You've
and
done
everything.
so many weird things.
Weird things. And then the guy, Dominic Santoro, who was an Italian, who worked there, did the boats, he said, come with me, I'm going to Florida.
Yeah.
And I knew some rodeo riders in Florida from Adventure Town, because there was a rodeo there too, part of the town. So I thought, oh yeah, it'll be good. I'll go down, I'll do with them, I'll do a little more rodeo stuff and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I went to Florida with him, and my aunt had set me up with a hotel run by Billy Graham, owned by Billy Graham.
Billy Graham, like Fillmore Auditorium.
No, not Bill Graham, but Billy Graham, the
evangelist.
Yeah.
Right.
So I showed up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, went there to get this job, and these people were interviewing me, and other people were running out of the hotel with carts full of whiskey bottles, and there were all these evangelist kind of men there with their daughters.
Yeah.
And
their daughters.
Their daughters.
Yeah.
And this place turned out to be
wow,
that kind of place. And the woman who ran it, an older woman, did not like me at all right away.
Right.
Because I asked questions.
Right.
And so I got another job there working on the boats. There's the Everglade tours.
Yes, right.
And I lied and said I was 21.
Right.
And so I was just deckhanding on the tours. Yeah. And again, I had this older woman one day who was watching me work and talking with her, and she said, gee, you got this job and everything, and how old are you? And I said, well, I'm only 19, but because, you know, I'm good with people and everything, they let me work on the boat. She said, well, they serve alcohol on this boat. I said, well,
really?
Yeah, I said, I don't drink any and never touch any and anything. She said, well, I'm sorry, but I'm with the liquor board.
Ouch.
And I had spent most of my money by then.
Mm-hmm.
I had enough money for a ticket home. And she said, you know, there may be you may have to, you know, somebody will get in touch with you and you may have to come and explain yourself. And oh, crap. So I joined the Marine Corps.
There you go.
Got the hell right out of everything.
That's a ticket out of town, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
speak of jumping from the frying pan into the fire.
Oh,
eh?
yeah, I bet, eh?
Anyhow, that's how I got in the Marines.
So you signed up down there in Florida someplace?
No, I had to go back to New York
Okay,
and sign up in Albany, New York.
okay.
Yep.
So, okay, so you signed,
So-
you say, yes, you know,
And,
I'm really only 19, but, you know, and you sign up, then what happens? You go, they take you to,
Paris Island.
Paris
Yeah, I
Island,
got
yeah.
to go back to lovely Paris Island.
that couldn't have been
Yeah.
much fun back, what year are we talking, 61?
Yeah, no, that was 1961,
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
November 1961.
yeah.
They had recently canceled because of the deaths doing Ribbon Creek. That's where those 8
I think I remember
Marine
that.
recruits died in 1959, I think
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was.
On some maneuver or
Yeah,
practice
it was a
thing.
night
Yeah,
maneuver. We
yeah.
did that maneuver.
Yeah,
The DI said, "We don't do that anymore here, so you don't see tonight."
okay.
And they took us through in the afternoon and showed us how to do it,
Yeah.
and we went through at night.
What did you do? I mean, this
Did-
is basically
Well, you
crossing
had to
the
go
creek.
through all this quicksand and swamp,
Uh-huh,
and they taught us how to communicate, how to do it,
yeah,
how to stay on the safe places.
yeah,
We had guides that were taught during the day. I was one of them.
yeah,
And what had happened when those 8 guys died, actually, is there was this one squad leader who went, "I know a shortcut. I figured it out. If we just go through here and over there, they're going all the way around."
right,
Didn't work.
ouch.
And it's at night when you do it.
Yeah, 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 so you don't know
So
what's
you're working all by just
disoriented.
little light flashes, because you don't want lights on because the enemy would see you coming,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
sure, yeah,
So it was a good exercise, actually,
yeah,
but
yeah,
again, a dangerous.
yeah, yeah,
All of this stuff I saw happen in boot camp. I saw 2 guys die,
really,
and both of them, well, sorry, I take that back. One in boot camp, one in infantry training later up in Jacksonville.
uh-huh,
And it's because they didn't follow what they were taught.
right,
There was one idiot when we were doing firing range
mm-hmm,
who realized that they didn't fire until all of the targets had been plugged that we'd been shooting at. And he was in the butts and bet this guy $10 that he could stick his head over the butts.
right,
And because he knew that they weren't going to fire until they said, "Everybody lock in, ready." You know,
Yeah.
he had a
yes,
announcer doing
yes,
that.
yeah,
So he stuck his head up and there was a DI testing a rifle.
whoa, oh,
Speak of how did that,
yeah,
you know, fate or whatever.
yeah, no kidding,
But
yeah.
that ended that, and that ended our day on the rifle range.
I
for
had a
sure.
very embarrassing situation when I was finishing up my officer, the officer training I had to do in Fort Sill at the firing range. And I had gone, when I went to VMI and did all my basic training and did
Mhm.
my, essentially my basic training up in Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
The rifles we had were M14s
Ah.
and M1s and stuff. These great big, they look like a rifle, right? And then in the interim, everything had gone over to this thing, the M14. I mean the assault AR-15,
Yeah.
like the assault weapon
yeah.
thing, right? Which I'd never touched. And before we were allowed to go home, this was like the last day or the day before the last day, you had to qualify again on that. And I had never even held one of these things in my hand.
Mm.
And everybody, and there's like 300 guys at the firing range, and they're going up, and they all fire, and then they get back, and then the next guy steps in, and they fire. And this is going on for like a couple of hours, right? And I'm about 9 guys, right at the back. By then, I'm completely against this entire thing, right? And I get down there in this thing, and I get it, and it won't fire. I can't figure out how to, I don't know where the safety is, I don't know how to reload it, I don't know how to pull the trigger. I'm sitting here and you know, and the guy, there's a guy there, he sees that I don't know, and he's coming down, and he, you know, he says, there you go. And, you know, I still get it. And then everybody else has stopped firing, you know. They're waiting on me, right? Like a huge number of people, you know.
Yeah.
And then bang, you know, this, and I've got the gun, I've got it like pointed up, right? I'm not even pointing at the bang. There we go. And then, so what? Number 14, start now, you know, bang, you know. It's just horrible. And then they finally fixed it. So all I had to do was pull the trigger, and and I had to qualify, so I had to like shoot the clip. You know, so I just sort of went, bang, ta, 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 and that was it, and just gave the thing back to the guy, and I was just horribly embarrassed, you know, really diminished, and nobody was looking at me, you know, they're all, you know, it was all, it was
So
awful.
what kind of a target were you firing
Oh,
at?
some big round target way down the end of the, you know, 100 yards away or something like that. It was just really stupid.
Wow.
But it was just awful, Couldn't stand it. Anyway, yeah. So,
Yeah.
didn't mean to digress. Sorry.
No,
This
that's
is my
good.
firing range story.
That's good. Yeah.
And I was pretty good all before that. I could,
Yeah.
you know, knock on the, you know, but I'd never even seen one of these things. It was, you know, that was, I repressed that until I started talking to you. I haven't even remembered any of that stuff, you know. I thought those days were over, but no, anyhow.
But they ran us through. In fact, every time we went to the range, we spent an entire week with no ammunition.
Right.
And you dry fire, you just snap in and snap in and snap in until you thought, how many years do I have to
in
do
the
this?
heat, you know, yeah. So then, okay, so you're doing all this training and stuff, and then what'd they do? They'd send you anywhere, you know?
No, I wound up in Quantico.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I stayed there. It was an intelligence processing place. They sent me up to Washington, D.C. to take computer training.
Wow. Gee, that must have been something.
Yep.
Punch cards.
Punch cards. and the big wiring boards.
Wow.
Where you had to go from this to that and learn how to wire the boards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had I known where computing was
You
going.
and Alan Turing.
Yeah, I would have paid more attention. But no, it was. Anyway, that's where the whole film thing got in.
Now, how did that happen then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh well, the whole acting thing, I should say.
Okay.
Oh, that was just being at Quantico.
Yeah.
Every Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, we had the safety and security lecture.
Okay.
About not talking to anyone about what we did. And then we were let go on leave, and of course we jumped in cars and went to Washington, D.C.
Sure, yeah.
And on the main drag there, you could drink a lot of good beer and try to get laid.
DuPont Circle.
And usually all you got was drinking a lot of beer and dragging your
getting sick.
Dragging your butt back to base somehow at the end.
Right, yeah.
But one night I got up there and I had just eaten, I think the place was called the White Tower.
Okay.
The White Castle or the White Tower. Anyway, they had these little tiny hamburgers you could buy for $10. You'd buy like 10 of them.
Right.
And some really healthy eating.
Yeah.
And eat those things. And I ran into, there was this good-looking young woman who I ran into standing outside there. And kind of tried to chat with her, and she chatted back. I said, "What are you doing tonight?" She said, "Oh, I got lots of interesting things to do. You want to do them with me?" Oh, great.
Gee, I don't know.
Anyway, so she led me out to Georgetown,
yeah,
where there was a whole bunch of people that were building sets for their play.
Wow. Okay. What a
And
fortuitous.
that turned out, then, you know, nothing really happened, but
Yeah.
but I did learn to build some paint sets, and
Cool.
had a good time and enjoyed hanging out with those people much more than I did my buddies
Yeah.
on the main strip who were seeing how drunk they could get.
Yeah.
So, and then they finally did a little Edward Albee play,
Mm-hmm.
and a little two-hander. Oh, I should know the title of that.
I don't know.
Gone from my sagging brain.
We'll,
Anyway,
we'll look it up. We'll
the
find
zoo
it.
story.
Zoo story.
The
Yeah.
zoo
Yeah.
story.
Right.
Anyway,
Mhm.
so I was in that and wound up winning a Best Supporting Actor award.
Whoa! Get out of here.
Yeah. Which then led
So
to.
what did you rehearse? Like when you weren't shooting guns?
Oh
or
yeah, I
something?
would rehearse every night.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
And,
That's cool,
yeah,
man.
that was a bit of a hassle. It meant I'd get off work.
Yes.
Because really my job there
Yeah.
was running the computers and stuff was over at 4 o'clock every day.
So you had plenty of time.
So
yeah.
4 o'clock we'd do cleanup. Of course,
Right.
everything had to get clean and
Yeah.
the barracks,
Yeah.
and then I was off if I didn't have duty.
Cool.
Anyway, we worked around it.
Yeah.
And, so anyway, that led to the interest from Drake University,
Uh-huh.
and they gave me a scholarship to come there.
And where's Drake?
Des Moines, Iowa.
Whoa. Okay. Okay. Okay.
I always wound
Had
up.
you ever been
I always
there?
wound up in the nicest places.
Had you hitchhiked through there or
No,
anything like that?
Yeah, I did. When I hitchhiked home during the winter,
Yeah.
me and the guy that I hitchhiked with were smart enough to take the southern route.
Yeah. Right.
So
yeah,
we came through
yeah,
Texas
exactly.
and all of those places.
Yeah. Drake University,
Yep.
Des Moines. How
Yeah.
how big was Drake at the time?
Oh dear, I don't know, but it was
Pretty
big.
pretty
it
big
was
university.
fairly good size.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were known for their track team
Okay.
and for their fine arts.
Okay.
And they had an
Cool.
old professor there named James Federlich, who was really good, and they had a really good theater department.
Excellent.
Sadly enough, he retired at the end of that year, and they replaced him with a young guy from New York
Yeah.
who was not good,
Uh-huh.
and of course wanted to change
Everything.
everything and everyone.
Yeah. So you did. So you were there for how long?
I was there for a year and a half. I did a year and a half of university
Uh-huh.
and did okay.
Yeah.
And the last half year wasn't as good for me
Uh-huh.
because of the new guy that came in.
Right.
who-
Yeah.
Who was kind of making sure that nobody who had been doing things before was going to
Yeah. Exactly.
do things
that
anymore. He had his
syndrome,
own group of people
Yeah.
he brought in, and
Yeah.
some of my favorite professors
That seems to
went.
happen over and over in
Yeah,
almost every
yeah.
walk of life. You know.
Yeah,
You inherit. You want to throw the old chicks out and
Yep.
start up with your new
Yeah.
chicks. Yeah.
so anyway,
Crazy.
Dale Wilson, who was there,
Right. Okay.
had graduated,
Yeah.
and he and his wife were driving to California.
So
And
that's how you met Dale.
This was a Christmas.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
a real odd meeting with Dale
Yeah.
Wilson.
Oh well, tell us about that because Dale's a real BC personality.
So I'm out of the Marine Corps,
yeah.
and they let me out early. 3
Yeah.
months. I got out 3 months early to
Yeah.
go to university. They
Yeah.
had what was called an early cut if you were enrolled in a school.
Yes.
So I hitched out there, got a job in an ice cream shop. I was in the dorm, which did not last very long,
Yeah.
but I had a dorm room. And so I'm looking for a better job because after 2 days at the ice cream shop, I got there a week before classes started,
Right.
which I thought, an ice cream shop. Well, by the end of 2 days, I never wanted to see ice cream again.
Oh yeah. Sure.
That was a lousy job, and it wasn't going to pay much. So I had gone down to a radio station to try and see if I could be a sports announcer,
Okay.
which being I never was a big sports person,
Yeah.
I failed the audition terribly. they're asking me about teams I didn't know and everything. So I knew I'd blown that.
Yeah.
And there was this pub there, and it had booths.
Right.
And so I went in, it was fairly empty, and it was time to eat dinner, and I was disappointed. So I got a beer, and I forget, a burger, sandwich, whatever. And I'm sitting there eating, and these three guys walk in who I'd recognized from campus. And they take the booth behind me. And I was pretty sure they were in the theater department.
Right.
They were seniors.
Right.
So I heard them talking, and they're going, well, you know, and those fucking Wilsons, you know, and they think they're hot shit, but we're going to get them. They're doing the lighting on this one.
Yeah.
And it was part of their senior project. And we're going to change the board, you know.
Yeah.
And so we're going to really
That'll show.
fuck over them. And so they had this whole plan. Well, I'm sitting there having my dinner, and I'm thinking, you know, people have all these fantasies.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to this project because I had something else going on, and I was working and everything. And the next day I came, and I was all buzz. They're going, did you hear about the Wilsons? They got kicked out of university.
And this, this
yeah.
is Dale and his
Yeah,
wife.
and his wife.
Yeah.
Yep. They got thrown out, like they're done. And some people were just like this about it. There were some other people who seemed happy about it. And because they didn't pay attention or anything, and they totally blew the lighting for this, the opening of the show. And I thought, shit, no, that's not what happened.
That's not what happened, yeah.
So I went in, and I talked to Portia Boynton, one instructor, and we went in and sat with Professor Federlich. And I said, yeah, I know I'm a bit older and everything, because I was.
Yeah.
But I said, here's my story.
Yeah.
And so I told him this story.
Yeah.
And he got madder and madder.
Yeah.
And he called in these three guys. And he said, do you mind repeating this in front of them? It was what he asked me before he even called them.
Yeah.
Because he thought, well, you know, I'm a freshman, but I didn't care. I was thinking, you know, they mess with me, they get the shit kicked out of them. But anyway.
Yeah, why don't you screw with the only Marine in the program?
I'm still 2 weeks out of the Corps, right?
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly.
And anyway, they came in, and I told my story, and they were like, I mean, reading guilty? So they confessed.
Yeah.
They were kicked out of university.
Right.
And Dale and Patty were brought back.
Okay.
And so that's how I met Dale and Patty.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because otherwise he was a senior, I was a freshman, and you know how that goes. I hadn't been around long enough yet.
Yeah. What year was that? What are we talking about now? 62, 63?
64, I think.
64?
Yeah, I got out in September of 63.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So.
Okay.
So we didn't hang out a whole lot.
Yeah.
But a little bit, and then when I ran into them, they were going to California. I figured I didn't want to come back for the next semester. Plus, I was getting pretty broke again.
Right.
And
yeah.
Anyway, I did wind up getting a job at a radio station, but as a DJ on a show. But they paid $2 an hour. I mean,
oh my God.
This is back.
Oh.
Which wasn't bad for them, but
but still, yeah.
$2 an hour was. And I got into a house with some older guys, which was 2 blocks off campus, and we shared the rent, but they were all leaving, and I didn't have replacements, and the guy wanted to empty the house and reno it.
Right.
So all of a sudden, I'd be looking for a place to live.
Yeah.
And I think I was just fed up with Des Moines.
Sure. Yeah. I don't.
Yeah, it's not your.
I've never spent any
place.
time there. I've been through Des Moines 2 or 3 times, but I've never
In my last summer there was a movie in town. Film. And it starred a guy I don't remember, and another guy who was the sidekick named Dean Stanton.
Yes.
And so Dean Stanton, who later became Harry Dean Stanton. And,
oh, really? Okay.
And quite a noted actor.
I didn't realize that. I think there is a Dean Stanton.
Yeah,
Isn't there somewhere?
But yeah,
Yeah, that's
but
probably
at that
why
point
he became
was
Harry
Dean
Dean
Stanton,
Stanton.
and he was doing this really low budget
Yeah.
goodie in Des Moines, Iowa, called The Hostage,
The Hostage.
and
We'll look that up too. Yeah.
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 Anyway, yeah.
So did
But-
you meet him, or did you
Yeah.
work
Oh
on
yeah.
the film?
Yep. Met him, worked with him. He wound up smoking dope and hanging out with some of the students because a
Yeah.
lot of us got little parts on the film.
Right.
Plus, we worked on it
Right.
as, you
Crew.
know, if you wanted to be in there for a no-line or one-line part,
Yeah.
you worked on it as crew.
Yeah. Cool.
That was a
Cool.
terrible job. The
Do you remember who
crews-
directed it?
No, I don't.
We can look that up.
No, I don't.
Well, we'll add that in.
It was
There'll be a little
pretty bad.
thing.
It was
directed by-
Heartline Productions,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. The big ending was a crash where Dean Stanton and the other guy died because they were bad guys.
Mhm.
And it started outside of Des Moines, and there was a hill coming down with a big curve coming by a cliff, and then a drop off.
Mhm.
And they lose control of the van, hit the cliff, and go over the cliff. And they had a stunt guy, and we spent all afternoon. They had a huge net. They had the lights up because it was a night shot.
A huge net.
A huge net. The stunt guy swung the thing toward the cliff,
Uh-huh.
and at that point,
Bailed.
he bailed
Yeah.
into the net. The truck then hit the cliff, spun, and went down
Right.
the hill.
Okay.
So we didn't have good radios then. The
Right.
truck is up at the top of the hill with the director.
Right.
The DOP and the cameras are down at the bottom, shooting the truck coming down the hill and going
Yeah.
off the cliff. And it's night, and we had a couple of really big arc lights up that were lighting it.
Yeah.
And at the last minute, the DOP says, I want to move that light. Well,
Uh-huh.
the signal for the truck had been a grip with a flag, would put the flag in front of the arc light
Yes.
3 times.
Right. Right. Right.
Flag that light off. They put 2 big ones together
Right.
so that you could see it, and we tried that out. Well, when the guys moved this other arc light 3 feet,
Yeah.
it turned.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they're big, and you
Yes.
got
Yes.
4 guys trying to
Yeah.
wheel this thing over there, and of course, for 3 times it got dark,
Right.
and you heard, and all of a sudden we looked up and the truck is coming, and they don't even hit the DOPs. Get the light back on the thing. Get over. They were doing a reload
Right. Oh.
on the camera. Truck hits, truck falls over, spins over the cliff. And they're still
What about the
standing there
guy
with the
in the
mag
net?
in his hand.
Is the guy in the net?
The
Tell
guy
me.
in the net was good.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Good.
guy in the net.
Directed by Russell S. Doughton Jr.
Yes, Russ
Written
Russell.
by Robert Lanning, and Henry Farrell wrote the novel, starring Don O'Kelly, Harry Dean Stanton, John Carradine.
Yep.
John
Carradine was
Wow.
in it.
Cinematography, Ted V. Mickles.
God,
Heartland
yeah, you're bringing me.
Productions. 1967, based on a 1959 novel called The Hostage by Henry Farrell.
Yep.
Don O'Kelly was a TV actor at the time. His career was cut short when he died shortly after making the movie.
Yep.
Oops.
Oh, so that
Oops.
I never did hear of him again. I don't
Yeah,
know
that's why. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
All right. So that was your first movie.
That was my first movie,
Yeah.
and Dean Stanton had said, you know, if you're ever out in LA,
Yeah. Look me up.
look me up,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So,
That's good. That's cool.
well,
you-
it was, except that at that point, Dean Stanton turned out had no work.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Was living up in the Hollywood Hills and going to
Yeah.
Jeff Corey.
Oh, thank you.
So
Yeah.
he I mean, he was fine. I liked him. We wound up going
I
to the rain
I did
check.
a movie with him,
We
and
wound up,
yeah,
they wound up going to the rain check room and stuff and showing me the way around.
yeah,
But I paid.
yeah, yeah, right, yeah, 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 yeah.